guys, it's Jessica, and today we're gonna do kind of a revamp of a video I did 5 years ago. And I rewatched the video today and I was like, oh, little baby Jessie. This is my collection of MAC products that I think are amazing, that are worth your money, that are the best. And then at the end, I'm gonna share a handful of products that I don't think are terrible, but I don't necessarily think are MAC's best products. A lot of them are products I feel like you can get a cheaper version at the drugstore that's exactly the same, if not better, that kind of a thing. So I'll save the negativity towards the end. I'm refilming this video because I filmed the whole thing and I got to the end and I was like, I feel like I was so bland and like not myself. And so I was like, I'm filming it again. I feel like MAC is one of those brands that gets people up in arms for various reasons. Because a lot of the products have been around for years, a lot of people really love them, and so they don't like hearing someone say that they don't. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things, take it with a grain of salt. It's just my opinion. I'm just a random person on the internet. It's just one of those things that it's just my experience, my skin needs, what I like, my tastes, etc. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Check out my old 2014 video, you will giggle. I feel like I don't even look like the same person. I mean, obviously I was much younger. If you do go watch that video, comment on that video in that comment section. Leave this emoji in the comment section so I know you're coming from the future. Right. So where do I begin? There's so many goodies right in front of me. I'm wearing all MAC, so I'll show you me applying my favorites on my face as I'm talking about it so you can see it in action. But some of these are recommendations. This is the longest intro ever. Some of these are recommendations from you guys that I picked up recently that were newer acquisitions that I've been trying for a while. And then a bunch of these are ones I've loved for a long time. First thing I've repurchased more than once is the MAC Strobe Cream. This is overlooked to a certain degree, and I think it's a misunderstood product. The way that I use this is as a moisturizing primer, as an illuminating primer. So it's kind of a moisturizer type product. It has this illuminating quality to it. There are a couple of shades. I have Pinklite. They also have one that's maybe like Gold Light, that's more golden, and I think they have one more. It just gives this shimmery quality to the skin that when you put a tinted moisturizer or foundation, whatever, on top of it, it still glows through underneath. And that is why I love this. So there's an exception to this in that I do feel like there are really good drugstore versions out there. The Milani Soft Glow Primer I love, the Essence Fresh and Fit Primer I love. Those are both really inexpensive, especially compared to this, and I do think they give a similar effect. And if you look this up on Beautypedia, there are good actual ingredients in it. It's not full of nasty fillers and stuff that's bad for your skin, and that's another reason why I'm like, I remember when I learned that about this, I was like, dang, like that's pretty nice that you're covering your skin in something that's not gonna like absolutely stifle and ruin your skin. You know what I mean? Like I said, I will wear this as a primer, like over an SPF and maybe another moisturizer, because I don't think it's necessarily moisturizing enough on its own. Sometimes I will pair like a pore filling primer on my nose and then have this everywhere else on my face. Today I just put it everywhere because I use it that way too. I figured if I were refilming this that it would be like more concise. I don't know that that's gonna be the case. The most overwhelming thing with MAC are their eyeshadows. Can I get an amen? I feel like their eyeshadows, there's so many, and it's like, if you don't own any, you're like, where do I begin? So you start looking at blogs and photos, and they're still recommending like 20. I'm gonna recommend like 6 shadows I think are amazing. I honestly have not tried a MAC shadow that's bad. I own all of these and 2 more, but I have a few that I've used over and over again that I'm like, those are the ones I'm gonna bring up because it is overwhelming otherwise, just to give you a starting point. My number 1 favorite is the shade Ricepaper. I've owned more than one of these. It looks like a very unassuming, kind of boring shadow, but there's something about this that has this like satiny quality to it that it never transfers on camera, but I have it on my brow bone and it gives the most gorgeous, did I just say gorgeous with a T at the end? The most gorgeous glow you've ever seen on your brow bone. It's my favorite brow bone shade. I've used this for years. It's also pretty just as a wash all over your lids. Love this. It also helps sound a little more caffeinated for this video, just saying. Next one, and this one has gotten a lot of love, is the shade Soft Brown. I use this as my kind of crease color today to just kind of buff everything together, and it's such a simple light color if you're near my skin tone. Obviously, if you're much deeper, this might not have the same effect. You might want a deeper color. I really, really love this one. It's really easy to blend together, and that is one thing to MAC's shadow credit. They are very, very blendable. This is one I tend to reach for all of the time when I have these shadows out. If you like a deeper option that's a little bit more brown tone versus like mauve, this one in Cork, I actually used today on my outer corner. It was a little bit deeper, but it also works really well diffused out in the crease. So if you'd prefer maybe a little bit more of a brown shade versus like a kind of reddish shade, you might like Cork a little bit more. They're both gorgeous. I use them both all of the time. The one I have all over my lid today, I do have a pigment on top, so it's not exactly what you're seeing, but this is the shade Woodwinked. It's a little bit newer to me. It's a bestseller for a reason. It is an absolutely gorgeous, kind of muted bronze. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. It's such a beautiful shimmer. It's one of those colors that can totally be a one shadow look where you put it all over the lid and then kind of blend it into the crease a little bit with the brush and you're done. It's so beautiful. Another shadow that I think is a great one shadow look color is the shade Sable. It's a little bit more kind of brown toned, but it is absolutely gorgeous. Again, it's a super shimmery color and it's just pretty on its own and blended with other colors. And there are so many other shadows I can recommend, but one that I use a lot is the shade Vanilla. It's a great, again, brow bone color if you don't want a lot of shimmer like Ricepaper, but look, if you're wanting to have just like a totally blanked out base for your shadows, this is really good for that. It's super, super pigmented. It's like a whiter version of the Wet n Wild, like $2 Brûlée single shadow. Very similar, but even brighter, if that makes sense. So I really, really like this shade. Like I said, there are many others I love, but I'm gonna stop it there because those are truly my 6 favorite. A favorite of mine I've loved for years is the MAC Fix Plus. Here's the thing. This is not, in my humble opinion, a product that is going to increase the longevity of your makeup. I really don't think it does that. And I don't know that it's even intended to. For me, this will take the powderiness, like if I go overboard on loose powder especially, and I'm like, ooh, like my nose is looking real powdery, like all the peach fuzz is catching all the powder in all the wrong ways. This is what I grab and I just spray it all over my face. The sprayer nozzle is really, really nice. It's a fine mist. And it just kind of gets rid of it. It eradicates it, and it's so gorgeous in that way. If I'm looking for like a longevity setting spray that actually does like lock your makeup in place, I'm gonna reach for the Scandinavia makeup setting spray or the, well, Scandinavia makes it as well, the Urban Decay all-nighter setting spray. Both I do actually think increase the longevity. This is not that for me. It's also great because it is so gentle and simple to, like, if you want to wet your brushes to put on an eyeshadow in that way or whatever, gorgeous for that as well. So let's talk MAC lipstick. I've had a kind of interesting relationship with MAC lipsticks over the years. There was a time where MAC sent me like every single lipstick they make, and they sent a lot of people that like influencers. And I got rid of like all of them over the next year because I realized I really don't love MAC's normal lipstick formula. But the formula I really do like is their Lustre formula. So the shade in particular I love, because again, their lipstick, it's overwhelming. There are so many shades. I love the shade Patisserie. It's a very kind of peachy shade. It definitely has a kind of shimmery look to it, but it's not so shimmery that it looks metallic and like makes your lips look weird. I have naturally bigger lips, but they're also naturally kind of like, there's a lot of lines in them. And so anything super metallic can make my lips look really just kind of gross, you know? This doesn't do that. But the other shade that's a newer addition to my collection, and this is actually not a Lustre, it's a Creamsheen. But to be honest, when I swatched it, I thought it was a Lustre. It's the shade Modesty, and you guys recommended this on Twitter when I asked what your favorite MAC products were. It's a pinker tone, and this is what I'm wearing on my lips today. It is so beautiful. It's like not too brown, it's not too pink, it's not too peachy. It's in the middle of all three. And so if you have more pigmented lips like me, you will love this, because that's my struggle, is a lot of times when I find a nude lipstick, it's either, like I said, too brown or too nude or too pink, and this is perfect. It's perfect. And Creamsheen I like, it's just like a little bit more pigmented than a Lustre. Another fave of mine is the MAC blush in Melba. This was one that when I was newer to makeup, and actually probably in some YouTube videos, I wasn't sure if I loved this, but I've realized that if you use a really light hand, it is so gorgeous. Again, it's not super peachy and not super pink. I think it leans a little more peach than it does pink, but it is so, so pretty on. It doesn't have any shimmer. It's completely matte. But I like that, and I realized that's kind of my taste in blush, because then I can add highlight to add the glow where I want it, instead of having a whole swath of glow, you know, like all over my cheek. The blush formula from MAC stays in place all day. I really do love it. This is the shade Warm Soul. I also like it's a bestseller, but I do think you can get similar shimmery blushes from Milani with a little bit more payoff, to be honest. The MAC Pigments. My favorite is the shade Tan. I have it all over my lids today. I'm not a pigments person. I really don't own many, if any. Like I own 2 MAC ones and 1 other one. This shade in particular, I literally take whatever's in the lid, get a little bit on my finger, and I tap it onto my eyelid. And it just has this gorgeous, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. This is something that I feel like I can tap it on top of any eye look and somehow it looks perfect with anything I'm doing. Now, typically mine is a more neutral look anyway, but anytime you see me with a really nice wash of like shimmer on my lids, it's probably the MAC Pigment and Tan. Now, this is the larger size. I would say you use so little. I've had this for years and I'm still all the way to the top. Get the, I think they call it their to-go size. Get that size. You'll never use up the whole thing. I don't even know why I bought it. The other shade I have is Vanilla, which is also gorgeous. It's this kind of ivory shade, but it blends out to be this gorgeous, almost like bridal color, but it looks really pretty on the inner corner as well. You can also get that gorgeous shimmer all over the lid if you want it. Don't let the whiteness of it scare you because it doesn't come across that white unless you like completely pack it on wet, which you totally can do too. Another product from them I love are their Pro Longwear Fluid Lines. This is in the shade Black Track. It's a super black cream or gel liner. Now, I do think you can get drugstore ones that are similar. The L'Oreal and the Maybelline ones, I can link both below. They're half the price and they have a very similar effect. But I just feel like this one's even blacker somehow and it stays in place so well. And I'm really enjoying it. And again, a little bit goes such a long way. I've had this forever. It still hasn't dried out and I use it weekly, a couple times a week. So if you want a super black, dark, budge-proof line, this is it. Another product I like, and it's been like one of their best sellers forever, is the MAC Mineralize Skin Finish Natural in Light Plus. This is the perfect in-between from just a powder that gets rid of oil and a powder foundation that is like super high coverage. This is perfectly in between because it does have a little bit of coverage, but it's nowhere near like, I love my IT Cosmetics Celebration Foundation powder that has crazy coverage. I love it. This is in between. So it's not my favorite powder of all time, but I get why people like it. So if you're someone that you have pretty normal skin, you don't have a lot to cover, but you want a little bit of coverage because maybe you're just using a tinted moisturizer, I think you'll really like this. It gives a nice finish to the skin. It can look a little dry if you get heavy-handed. Like I don't love the way this powder looks on my nose, but everywhere else it does look really nice and light and I do enjoy it. I get why people like this. Wow, this is one I can't believe it's taken me so long to finally try. This was a suggestion or recommendation from Arna Elaine, one of my favorite YouTubers here. I will link her channel below. She is a very fair skinned girl. She's even fairer than I am, and she loves the Extra Dimension Skin Finish in Double Gleam. This, again, is one that a lot of people like, and I finally tried it. It's so pretty on the skin. So if you're super fair, you'll like this because it's actually light enough to be a highlighter. But even if you're not, it blends out to be the most gorgeous powder highlight. It ends up looking on the skin as though it's a cream or a liquid. And by that I mean it catches the light so perfectly and it doesn't emphasize your fine lines. So this is one I was surprised I liked, and I haven't really fallen in love with the powder highlighter in a long time. So I was like, ooh. I feel like their liners aren't talked about a lot, but I have one particular one that I really am enjoying, and it's their Eye Kohl in the shade Costa Riche. It's this deep, rich brown, almost a chocolatey brown, but even deeper, like a dark chocolate. And I love it. I used it on my top lash line today. And I love that you can really get a dark line if you want, but my favorite way to use it is by smudging it out. So I'll grab just a thin angled like liner brush and I'll just kind of run it against it and it smudges it out, but it still keeps it really dark. Because for me, the purpose of liner, especially as I've gotten a little bit older, is I like to have that like smudged look where it looks like almost natural and it really darkens my lash line. That's the whole point. When I wear mascara without liner, that's what I'm missing. The darkness that makes your lashes look full right at the base. And that's what this does. And so I really enjoyed this. My favorite lip liner from MAC, and I don't think that their lip liners are like anything to write home about. They do their job, they stay in place. I mean, they're kind of expensive for what they are, but there is one shade I've fallen in love with if you have a similar lip color to me, which is very kind of pigmented. It's the shade Dervish. I've loved this for years. I mentioned this in my old video I mentioned earlier. And actually, the Derv is a nickname for me, long story, and I think I mentioned it in that video too. but it's just the perfect kind of neutral pink shade, but it's not super pink, you know what I mean? And it's not super brown. Again, it's kind of like that Modesty lipstick. It goes really well with it, by the way. That's what I'm wearing today, this lip liner and that lipstick. But it's just really nice. It's my perfect Your Lips But Better shade. It perfectly defines the outside of my lips. I love it. Now let's talk about some MAC products that I was like, they're not bad, but again, is it really worth the price tag? Maybe not. One that I really was unimpressed with, and I know a lot of you guys love, because a lot of you guys recommended it. It's their Mineralized Skin Finish Natural, but it's in the shade Give Me Sun. It's just too orange for me. So I don't hate the formula, because it's the same formula as the powder I was mentioning. But when I put this on, and anytime I've used it over the past month, it always looks a little bit patchy, but I'm able to blend it, because again, I like the powder formula. But it's just this shade. It doesn't look as natural as I want, so I end up spending a lot of time blending it by using a powder foundation like that one, just to get it to look a little more natural. And so I'm like, I have plenty of other bronzers I'd prefer over this one. So that's why this one's kind of a pass for me. This one, I'm working to love. I like it. It's the MAC Face and Body Foundation. I get why people like this. It's a very lightweight formula. It's not gonna cover a ton, but you can use it on your body, you can use it on your face, and it looks very, very natural. And I do like that. That's obviously what I prefer. It's what I'm wearing today. But I was thankful for the little bit of coverage in the MAC powder that I used, because I definitely wanted a little bit more from this. This reminds me a lot of the Glossier Skin Tint. So if you've tried that and you didn't like it, you might not like this. Now this does have a little bit more coverage than that, but not a lot. And I do think I like this best with my hand. The times I've used it with a brush and a sponge, it just looked a little bit splotchy, especially with the brush. You could kind of see the brush strokes no matter which ones I was using, you know what I mean? So I like it best with the heat of your hands, and I enjoy it. This is not something I'm planning on decluttering anytime soon. I will definitely use it, but I don't think it would ever be my holy grail I love this Misha BB cream. I know a lot of you guys have heard me talk about it forever. It's so good because it looks like your skin, but it has amazing coverage. The problem is the shade range is awful. I wouldn't even say these are similar products. They're really not. That one is a thicker one, but again, it also applies best with your fingers. But I like this. I'm gonna keep trying it, but it's not one that I'd be like, oh my gosh, everyone would love it, because I don't think everyone would love this. If you have a lot to cover, you would not like this. Now, I will say, if you have texture and you feel like every foundation you try just accentuates that, this does look a lot more skin-like. So I think it's a little bit more forgiving, especially if you have dry skin. It's gonna moisturize just a little bit. So there are pros. I just am not totally convinced it's worth the price tag. This brow pencil. It's the MAC Velux Brow Liner. I got the shade Taupe. I don't think the shade is a bad match for me at all. It's just that I like the spoolie actually a lot. It's really, really soft. It's easy to brush through the brows. But the pencil is a sharpenable type pencil, you know, like a wood pencil. And I just can't get it to a fine enough point. I am quite in love with micro brow pencils, okay? And because of that, I just feel like this leaves me wanting because I like to be able to draw on little hairs and stuff. My natural brows are so freaking light. And so because of that, I really do have to like completely color them in, you know what I mean? So this I couldn't get in the little corners I wanted. I don't think the ending look was bad at all. I actually really like the way my brows look. Again, like I said, I'm not gonna declutter this anytime soon. I'm still gonna use it, but I feel like when I'm done using this, all I wanted to do was grab like my LA Girl $5 micro brow pencil and go in and fill in the other little areas. So that's probably how I'll continue to use this in conjunction with the micro brow pencil, you know? What is the deal with the Vintage Selection paint pot? I love the soft ochre and the Painterly paint pot. I currently don't own them. I love those for an eye primer. When you swatch Vintage Selection, it looks gorgeous, right? When I put it on my eyes, it's like gone. I can't get it to look like this really pretty swatch of color that I'm seeing here, no matter what I do. It's the weirdest thing. If you use this in a certain way, please let me know how you're using it. But like I said, I love the other ones. I would recommend those, and I probably will repurchase one of them again soon. I had soft ochre most recently. I think I'm gonna try Painterly again, but this one I can't put my stamp of approval on. This next one is one that I think you can just get the same thing at the drugstore. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's worth the price tag. It's the MAC Cream Color Base in the shade Pearl. It's kind of a cream highlighter. That's what it is. And so you can grab a little bit on your finger, tap it into those areas. I actually think it looks really pretty. But again, there's so much at the drugstore that is nice that's similar to this. I am working on, and it'll be coming soon, so subscribe, stay tuned, it's coming soon. Really big overview of all of the cream highlight bronzer and blushes at the drugstore, which I think are amazing, which ones aren't. So stay tuned for that video. I don't think this is bad. I just feel like you can spend way less money and get a similar effect. And frankly, if you're gonna get a highlight from MAC, I still, even though I'm not even big on powder highlights right now, I still would recommend Double Gleam. It's so beautiful. Another one I think is okay is the MAC Studio Finish Concealer. This is definitely better for blemishes on your face, concealing those, than it is for the under eye. I was hoping this would be similar to my Bobbi Brown corrector that I love. I use it on my under eye. It blends in 2 seconds. It's kind of a salmon shade that I use, and so it totally cancels out any purple or blue tones under there, and that's all I need to do. I can leave, and it's just so beautiful. It doesn't cling to dry patches, anything like that. This one is definitely a drier formula. So for that reason, I do think it stays in place well. So you'd like it, you know, like if you had blemishes on your face to conceal, top it with powder, it's gonna stay in place really nicely. But for the under eye, I definitely don't recommend it. If you're gonna go for a matte concealer for the under eye, go for the Pro Longwear Concealer. It's a little tiny bit, goes a long way. It's more of a liquid formula. And wow, that stuff covers. Again, I don't currently own it, but I've owned numerous ones of those and I definitely recommend it. The very last one is the MAC lip glosses. I have the shade Purr. I actually like this. And again, a lot of you guys recommended this. It's a gorgeous color. Kind of reminds me of, you remember the NYX glosses they had, Mega Shine glosses? There was one that looked really similar to this. Was it like Angel Food Cake or something? Beautiful. These smell like vanilla. They're a non-sticky formula. They're really pretty. They smell nice. But I guess what I'm saying is there's plenty just like this. So if you're already placing an order for MAC and you need a new lip gloss, go for it. They're nice. But I do think for the same price, there's a better lip gloss out there. My favorite formula is from Dose of Colors. They sell it at Ulta. They're 17 bucks and it is the best lip gloss I've ever tried. It's the creamiest, most pigmented. It smells even better than this if you can imagine. It's like vanilla but amped up. They're so comfortable. They're almost moisturizing. And I've never tried a lip gloss like them. The first time I tried them, I was like, every lip gloss should be like this. So I like this, but there's just better out there. One other little thing I wanted to throw out there is that MAC sells their palettes for really cheap. So if you like the look of a MAC palette, as shallow as that sounds, even if you're not using MAC shadows, most of them will fit in these. And like this, they're really cheap, like a couple bucks cheap. So I got this little 6-pan one. I'm planning on putting my 6 favorite shades in so that I can travel with it really easily. And then of course I also have the like giant one, but they don't stick to it right if you've removed the backing. So if you bought one recently, it will fit just perfectly. But like I've put some other like magnetic things on it from other palettes and they won't stick to this. So it's so interesting what does and what doesn't. I have no idea what they've done to this and how, I don't know. Long story short, they have these if you want to just leave it open like this, but you can also buy the inserts for this to be able to fit the shadows in that way. You can just fit less shadows in it. So I love that. I figured it was worth mentioning. They also have like little twofers. You could get blushes and bronzer inserts. They have so many and they're not as expensive as you think. I think they used to be, but they're not anymore. So the only thing, by the way, if you were curious, that I didn't put on that was MAC is mascara. I used one of my favorites, the Essence Volume Stylist mascara. Again, it's sold at like Ulta. It's like $5. I love this. I love it. I wear it all the time. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly enjoyed filming it a second time. This felt more like myself. If you have any MAC favorites or least favorites, let us know below. We can kind of get a conversation going. If you enjoyed, I hope you'll subscribe as well. I upload 3 to 4 times a week. I do beauty and lifestyle here on my channel. It's definitely a mix, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.